Welcome back to Wargaming World and to the penultimate battle of 2020. It'll be the 51st video covering the diary across 2020, and so we return to Belgium 1914 for a game of Chain of Command. And so in this game we're playing a slight variation on the probe, and we have our patrol markers, which are the British 15th Hussars. So looking to approach this road and to move and advance all the way into this field with our stone walls, and then out on the other side of it across the next road. And the idea being is that if they can get the British can get one unit off the table via this road, then they will win the game. However, as you can see, we have German forces, the German patrol markers here, and the Germans, for their part, have a different target. So if we scroll back across the table, the Germans have their thoughts on taking the railway line and getting down to the station beyond it. So that's the setup for the game. Now let's have a look at the patrol phase. Well, let's take a look at how many free moves the British get. And the 5, they get 4 free moves. So we've moved all 4 markers, and quite neatly this is where it takes our 15th Hussars. So let's have a look at force morale, see who can move next. Right, so that's 10 each for the British and the Germans. And with the British on the attack, we'll have the British move next. So I'll go through the whole patrol phase and then come back to you as we begin to look at our jump off points. So this is where the patrol markers finish. We can see the Germans here just on the right hand side, and the cavalry just out in the middle. Just further along, we then have another 2 a similar situation with the Germans on the what is effectively very much on their left flank. The figures here, we've got one German at just the edge of the wood there, and the British here at the corner of the hedge, and then finally we have the other 2 markers. The British one very wide with the stone wall, and the German just there by the tree. So let's start with the Germans for the 3 jump off points. I've marked them with our infantry here just next to it, and we've got one just at the edge of the road. So this is where the British need to come off here, so we've got a jump off point right there. We've got another one just at the edge of that wood. We've got quite a commanding one up there, up on the hill. Now, just to mention that in terms of line of sight, it can't fire over these trees in front of it, but it certainly can fire down onto this area, which essentially will be the British left flank. So the British forces themselves, we also have one jump off point there, so very much in the direction of fire for the Germans in a very positive position. We've then got a second jump off point here just by the stone wall, and the third and final is back here at the corner of this field. Right, with the jump off points organised, let's take a look at the forces. Now, as far as HQ is concerned, we have 2 senior leaders, and we also have a HQ back here. Now, this will allow you to have command within 12 inches, although these units, or this figure really is the HQ, is in a permanent spot. So within 12 inches of that we can have command. However, these are the 2 senior leaders who effectively will be in this game as the British advance. And as far as additional elements, we've got a motorcycle section there, and it's not used in the game, just good for the table. And indeed, we've got the Royal Army Medical Corps there, just by the statute. So let's take a look at the British forces. And the British will have 4 rifle battalions, and this is the first. This is the Worcesters, and we've got 10 riflemen with their junior leader. And if we move across here, we've got the Middlesex battalion. Same again, we've got 10 men, 9 rifles, and an NCO with pistol. We've then got the Royal Scots in the same format. And finally, we have the same format with the Highlanders, who are aggressive fighters when attacking. And for support, we have 4 points for the 15th Hussars. I've got them as both mounted and dismounted. I'm going to use all 10 figures though in terms of the squad. Now their objective, that's the unit I want to get them off the board, so we're covering this road ideally all the way round, and to exit the board here. That's the objective. We'll see whether the Germans are obliging. And last but not least, we also have a pre-game barrage with the field guns firing in advance. That's 2 points for support, firing on the Germans to see if they can actually get on the board. Now we've taken a look at the British, so let's take a look at the Germans. Let's start with our 2 senior leaders, and I have spent 1 point of their 4 points for support on an adjutant, so these 2 will be on the board as soon as possible. Just looking on the right hand side here, we also have a machine gun. It's the only machine gun we've got on the table today, and this is the German machine gun. So have 5 German battalions, and this starts with the 145th. We also have the 76th, and all the German units, much like the British, have 9 rifles, and they have an officer as well, often with pistol. Here's the next unit, which is the 80th. Then we've got the 55th, and finally the 75th. And just to make things interesting in the cavalry stakes, we've got a squadron of lancers. And finally, last thing I should have mentioned is that with the other 3 support points for the Germans out of the 4 that they have, I have got a red dice added to them, so the Germans will get 6 dice to the British 5. Right, on with the game. Right, first phase, turn 1, the British using the tabletop Generals dice, thanks to Jens for these. British go first. 5 dice, let's see what we get. And a very useful start. So we've got 3 2s, a 3 and a 1. With a roll like that, why not just get the figures out onto the table? So I've brought out 3 battalions on the 2s. Put them into position so we can start to advance. I've also brought out the senior leader as well. That's the 1 and the 3. And then we put the Royal Scots in front of them there on Overwatch. Let's roll for the Germans. And another good roll. So we've got 4 for a senior leader. We've got 2 3s, a 2, 2 1s. Now, I've had a great roll, but I have to remember that the British have a pre-game barrage. So can we get the units onto the table? So first of all, with a 2, I want to bring on an infantry battalion. So I need a 4, 5 and 6 to do so. Unfortunately, I can't. So with a 3, I want to do the same thing. So an infantry battalion. This time, yes, we can. With a 1, I'd like to bring on a machine gun. And I can. 4, I want to bring on a senior leader. No problem. 3, another infantry battalion. And no, we can't. That's it, I'm afraid. I don't have anything else with a 1. So that's it for the Germans in terms of bringing units on. So we've got the Germans onto the table, got a machine gun and a unit. The senior leader has both of them on overwatch. We haven't got quite the angle to be firing at the Scots there, but unfortunately we haven't got more volume either. It was a really good roll. Unfortunately it's the pre-game barrage that's keeping them somewhat at bay. So over to the British. Okay, it's the British turn. I have been wondering to myself whether the British were too near to the end of the to the road, and it was going to be a quick game. But actually, as I've measured that out, we're looking at about 40 inches away, so there's still quite a long distance. Right, so after reassuring myself that I haven't made the whole task far too easy for the British, let's carry on with the next phase. And so we've got the first chain of command dice there with a 5, and we've got 2 2s, a 3 and a 4. Okay, so what I've decided to do is for mounted troops, I'm going to, they need to come on via the road. So with 2 I've brought in the 15th Hussars. These are the 5 which are mounted. We do have 5 that are dismounted and can deploy further along on the table, but that's the first use of the 2. With the 4, I'm going to have an order for all 3 of these units via the senior leader, which means that leaves me a 2 and a 3. So I can bring on the remaining 2 units, which is the Highlanders and the dismounted cavalry. The only thing that's not on the table then will be the second senior leader. First of all, I'm going to move this unit 2d6, 7 inches. I'm going to do the same with both of these units. Firstly the Scots, 11 inches, Middlesex Battalion, 4 inches. Right, a lot of movement there, so let's just cover it. We've got, first of all, our Royal Scots. They moved 11 inches. They've moved quite a long way here. It's going to be potentially triggering the overwatch there of the Germans. We'll do that in a moment. We have the movement as well of the Middlesex Battalion. Didn't go very far, 4 inches, but that's where they are. We have, as I mentioned originally, it's the Worcesters at the top there, just going past the corner of the stone wall. Brought in the new units, so we've got the Highlanders here in within 6 inches of the jump off point, and within 9 inches, because they are mounted, is the dismounted cavalry. And the last person we have is with our senior leader there, and that's the only person who hasn't come on the board, which is the second senior. Okay, so the overwatch is triggered. We can take a pick really. The machine gun is going to fire at the Scots as they advance there. The unit up against the hedge can fire and see further down towards the Worcesters as they're advancing. They can't clearly see the Scots because they're behind the hedge, so we're going to take that as the target. Okay, machine gun firing at the Scots. It's 17 inches, so it's 6 dice with 4s to hit. And that is 2 hits. Scots are in the open, and so we've got 1 point of shock. Rifles are just behind the hedge there, and just because where they're positioned, we're going to have 8 rifles firing. The officer has a pistol, and there's one figure which is just out of the way, so we're going to have 8 leading 5s firing up the road here at the Worcesters. Leading 5s, and that looks like just 1 hit. It's just the 1, but it is a kill. Is it the leader? No, it's not. So, that's the end of the British phase. Let's see if we can get some of the Germans onto the table, getting past the pre-game barrage. Six dice, including the red dice. And so we've got 2 5s, which take us 2 to the chain of command dice. Wasted 6, and then we've got a 1 2 3. The challenge that I've got here is to see whether I need to bring in other units or whether I combine the 1 and the 3 for the senior leader, but I don't know. So let's start with a 2 and see if we can bring on a unit. Okay, can I bring one on? A 5, yes we can. Okay, so with the 2 I've brought on the unit here, and I'm going to combine the 1 and the 3, so we're going to have some firing again at the same targets we fired at last time. Just want to point out that when I have the units in 2 ranks here, it's only the front rank that are firing, so it's going to be 5 rifles, I should say. from the first unit there, and we had 8 originally firing at the Worcesters and 6 with the machine gun. And away we go. Let's see how much damage the Germans can make this time. Rifles again, needing 5. This is the 145th Regiment, and 5 dice needing 4s. And 3 hits. Scots are in the open, and we've got 1 kill and 1 point of shock. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. Machine gun this time, and that looks like 4 hits in the open, and that's 2 kills. Need to see if it's the leader. Yes, it is. What happens to him? He takes a wound. So we've got an officer there taking a wound. We need to roll for a bad thing on morale. 1, that might be nothing. Yeah, that's nothing, so the British stay on 10 for morale. Let's see how the Germans do firing on the Worcesters. So we need 5s. Looks like we've got 3 hits. Getting in the open, and that's 3 points of shock. And so that's the end of the German phase, and they're certainly blocking the road and giving the British a bit of a bloody nose there, certainly in the nearest units with the Scots. So let's see how we go on with the next British phase. As we come into the British phase, it's quite obvious that the British can't just rush the Germans now, so we need to see whether the British can get more of a movement around a flank. So let's see where we go with the British movement as we roll for the British phase. And we have a wasted 6, 2 4s, and 2 and a 3. Okay, with the first 4 I've brought on the second senior leader, and we're going to take off the 3 points of shock off this unit. With the 3, this unit, the junior leader is then going to order this unit to move at the double down in this direction, and with the 3 it'll also be able to take off the point of shock that occurs as a consequence. We then have a senior leader down here. We're going to move this unit, we're going to move the Middlesex and also the Highlanders as well, so that'll be the 3 commands used here. And here this unit is going to move. We have to take off 2 inches because of the 2 points of shock as well. So that's the movement for the British. Let's see how far the Worcesters can go. 3d6, a total of 8 inches. Now these are going to move at the double. 8 inches. They get in position but take a point of shock. And you get these to move at the double as well. They've got to get out of the line of fire here. I know it's going to take on another point of shock, so it'll have 3, but I do need to take 2 inches off this roll. At the double, so we have 11 in total, so 9 inches. This unit are moving 1d6, and they're going to fire, but fire at half effect. There is an opportunity to fire. It's not much of a gap, I would have to say, but let's see if we can actually move up to the edge of this hedge. 1 inch, no they can't. Would have been better just moving normally, but that's as far as they've gone. And finally this unit is going to move normally just at to the edge of the stone wall, so not into the open, but we're going to move 2d6, 4 inches. So I think the British have lurched forward there a little, so we're now over to the German phase. So, okay, so we've got 2 4s, 2 2s and a 3. So 2 2s and a 3, so let's see if we can bring some units onto the board. First, infantry regiments, yes we can. And the second, no we can't. And the third, no we can't. So I've deployed the 55th Regiment. They are within 4 inches of the edge of the wood, but not quite 4 inches of the British, so we're not in hand-to-hand fighting yet. They can fire, and I think it's completely reasonable that they would be in a defensive position here so that we can fire. It's just the front rank, so it's going to be 5 firing. And so we've got 5 firing here at the British. Short range. And that's no hits at all. Okay, with the 4, the senior leader is going to order the machine gun and both rifle units to fire at the Royal Scots. The rifles are in short range, or effective range I should say, but the machine gun isn't, and also the same for the rifles behind this hedge. Start with the rifles needing 4s. Oh, terrible again. That's nothing there. Machine gun needing 5s. Just the one hit. So now in cover, so no effect. And the other rifles, 8 of them, needing 5s. And nothing again. Crikey, that must be the worst shooting I've ever seen. Well, I'm going to say that the British have got away with one there. So let's see how we go here. So we've got 5 for the chain of command dice, which takes up to 2, wasted 6, and a 1, 2, 4. Okay, with the 4, the senior leader orders the Highlanders to move at the double. He'll go with them and take the point of shock off as they go towards the wooded area. With the 3, we're going to use the junior leader. We move tactically into the woods. We'll see how far we go. It's just 1d6. I've done it this way because if it's a high roll, it'll get into combat. It'll only be 1d6 of movement. If it's short, it means they'll get hard cover. They should do if the Germans fire subsequently. And the senior leader also, because we've got a 4, is ordering this unit to try and do what we did before, which is to move up to the hedge. It's 1d6. They'll fire at half effect. Maybe it'll only be 2 or 3 firing, but we'll see how it goes. Let's start with that single movement. 1 inch. I'm just going to allow 2 men to fire, needing 5s. One's a good shot though. Germans are in the open. And that's no effect. So 1d6 to move the unit into the woods. 5. So they're certainly going to be in contact. I'm just going to move the figures really up to the edge of the woods, and then we'll work out the hand-to-hand fighting. Highlanders at the double. They'll go a total of 9 inches. And that's how far the Highlanders got. So let's work out this fighting. We've got 9 with the British and 10 with the Germans. Okay, so let's just work through the situation for melee. So first of all, it's the number of men they have, so excluding the officers. So the British have 8, the Germans 9. You then get a point for each of the command levels, so it's 2 each. The Germans get 1 because the British moved 1d6, but the British get 2 additional dice because they have 1 level higher in terms of quality of troops, which brings the British to 12 and the Germans to 12 at that point. However, the Germans also get 1d6 for every 3 that they have already, because they are defending light cover. So as a consequence, we end up with 16 for the Germans, 12 for the British. And how we do this is that we're looking for 5s and 6s to cause casualties, and with each 6 we have an additional point of shock. Okay, so let's see the British first of all. That's 2 casualties and no shock. And the Germans, and that's 4 casualties, including 4 points of shock. Let's just see if it's the German leader first of all. We had 2 casualties. 1 or 2? No, it isn't. British, is it the casualty of the officer? No, it isn't. Well, that was an absolutely terrible engagement for the British. They've been thrown back. They have 5 points of shock, and yeah, Germans only lost 2 men. The other side of that wood there, if we can see. Yeah, hard to see, but yeah, absolutely no problem for them. And the German turn. And so we have 1 more point for the chain of command dice, which takes up to 3, wasted 6, but we've got 2 3s, a 1 and a 2. Okay, with a 3 and a 2, let's see if I can bring some more units on. Bring on a unit of infantry. No, we can't. So with the other unit with the 2, going to bring one on? Yes, we can. So we'll bring on the 80th Regiment and we'll fire at the same unit that have just been taking casualties there. We've got 5 men. And with the 3 and a 1, we're going to have some more firing from these units ordered by the senior leader. 5 at close range, needing 4s. That's 4 hits. And they're in the open. So we have 1 killed and 3 points of shock. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. And with that, we've got 4 men with 8 points of shock, and they will break. And that's 6 inches plus 2d6, 18 inches. Right, so 18 inches, they really have bolted, so we need to also roll for a bad thing for section breaks. In fact, it's actually a battalion breaks, but let's see what the consequence is. 5, I think, is going to be a -2, which takes the British down to 8. Okay, British down to 8 in morale. We've got 5 rifles firing at the Scots, needing 4s, and we have 1 hit. Now the Scots didn't move, so that means they will be tactical, they're behind a hedge, so effectively it's hard cover. There's no effect. Machine gun needing 5s. We've got 4 hits there, and effectively hard cover. And a point of shock. 8 rifles needing 5s. And we have 2 hits. Again, hard cover, that's a kill. 2 kills. Is it the leader? Yes, it is. And the consequence of that, he's knocked out. Junior leader wounded is going to be another bad thing. 4, that's a -1, taking the British down to 7. And so, at the end of the German phase, it's going very badly for the British. We've got our junior leader knocked out. We've now got 1 of our 4 battalions really out of the game. We've got the Germans holding firm around this wood. We have a 2nd battalion now in position, and the original aim, which is trying to get around this road, covered by 2 German battalions and a machine gun. So not quite so sure how the British are going to get through this. Let's see what happens in the next phase. New British phase, and I'll be struggling here to see how we might achieve the objectives now, losing the 1st battalion, but let's roll and see if we get some luck. Well, not bad rolls. So we've got 2 2s, 2 3s and a 1. Right, we're going to start over here. With a 2, we're going to move this cavalry unit. They move with 1 or plus 1d6, so a standard movement is essentially 3d6. How far do they go in total? Hardly any, just 4 inches. I have to say that's a very cautious advance. Now with the 3, the officer is going to take off 2 points of shock from this unit, and that takes them down to 6. Now, with the Highlanders here, we're going to move 2d6 towards the Germans to see whether we get close enough to hand-to-hand fighting. It's 5 inches in total. Well, I've just moved the hedge just to show that actually they are 1 inch short. So if it had been an average roll of 7 inches, they'd have got there. They didn't, it was 5, and I think that's going to make it game because we haven't been able to get in contact. So the senior leader here is going to order all 3 units to fire. The Scots at the front have got deductions because they have 4 points of shock, so we lose 2 men. So in actual fact, we're going to end up only 2 people firing. Yeah, let's start. Let's start with them. Okay, 2 men firing. Let's start with them, needing 4s and 2 hits. Germans in the open. That means we've got 1 kill. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. We've got 4 here at long range, needing 5s. And that's 1 hit. And no effect. And I'm going to say that 4 can fire here as well. Needing 5s. We've got 1 hit in the open. And 1 point of shock. So, German phase. And we ignore the red dice, but it's quite significant. We've got a double phase, and we also have a 2, 3 and a 4. So right, so we ignore the red dice with a 6, but we do have a double turn, and then we've got a 2, 3 and a 4, and I think this could be the decisive phase. So with a 4, the senior leader is going to order the same firing as before. 2 units of rifles and a machine gun. And with a 2 and a 3, we've got a 2, 5 figures firing there at the Highlanders as they advanced, and indeed we'll have the same from the woods. We'll have 5 firing at the Highlanders. So shooting from the woods, 4s required. That's 3 hits. Highlanders in the open, and 1 point of shock. It's the 5 that are in the open, and that's 2 hits. 1 kill. Is it a leader? No, it's not. Machine gun firing at the Scots, needing 5s. 1 hit. Scots fired, so they're not tactical, so they only have soft cover, but that's still no effect. 5 rifles shooting at the same target. This time it's short, so therefore it's 2 hits. 1, 4, 5 for shock. No, double 1 is nothing. 8 rifles, long range, needing 5s. 2 hits. 1 kill, 1 point of shock. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. German phase again, drop 1 dice because it's a repeat phase. We get a 5. Takes the chain of command dice up to 4, and then we have a 1, 2 2s and a 3. And we have exactly the same firing as beforehand. So the senior leader ordering these 3 units, and with the 2 2s, we're going to fire again at the Highlanders. Firing from the woods, needing 4s. 2 Highlanders in the open. 1 kill, 1 point of shock. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. 5 firing in the open, needing 4s. We've got 2 hits. What's the outcome? We've got a kill. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. Machine gun, needing 5s. 3 hits. Okay, so 3 hits and 2 kills. Is it the leader? No, it's not. That unit are now pinned. 5 rifles, needing 4s. 3 hits. No effect. 8 rifles, needing 5s. And that looks like 2 hits. And that's 1 point of shock. They're up to 6, very close to breaking. Well, I think this game is more or less done, but I'm going to have a last hurrah and see if we can charge the Highlanders and look for some kind of miraculous roll. But yes, let's see the next British phase. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so we've got the senior leader here. He's going to move and then take 2 points of shock off this unit here. I'm going to move the cavalry 3d6. Senior leader is going to take off. Oh, sorry. The senior leader is going to take off 2 points of shock off the Highlanders. Can't quite see them there. And then order them to move 1d6, which will be close enough to fight the Germans. Let's move the cavalry 3d6, and they can go 12 inches. And this is where the cavalry got to. Senior leader moves at the double, doesn't take shock, so therefore he could go 6 inches. Okay, so we've reduced a couple of points of shock there off that unit. I've just moved this hedge out of the way so we can do this. So we're going to move 1d6 for a start. 5 inches. Right, I'm going to work out some dice. Okay, so let's review some numbers. Taking the British first of all, we've got 6 men. That's 6 dice, and then you look at your command. So there is a senior leader, which is 3, and a junior leader, which is 2. They are 1 up in terms of a better quality of troop, and also they are aggressive fighters. So the British have 13. Germans have 9 men. They have an officer, which is a command of 2, and the British also moved 1d6, which gives the Germans 12 in total. Right, let's see how the British do first. That's 4 casualties, including 2 points of shock. Now the Germans, and that's 3 casualties with 1 point of shock, so the British win by 1. We need to have a look and see if any officers are the casualties. First of all, the British, 1, 2, 3, it's an officer. Yes, it is. Got 2 officers, so 1, 2, 3, it's the senior. Yes, it is. And what happens to him? He loses a command. And we need to roll for a bad thing. It's a 2. That's a -1. British down to 6 on morale. See if it was a German officer. No, it wasn't. So the Germans are thrown back 6 inches, 2 points of shock. British have 1 point of shock. Now we have a German phase. and lots of options really. We've got 2 4s, 2 2s and a 1. Right, I'm going to use the first 2 to see if we can bring on another unit. No, we can't. I'm going to use one of the 2 4s to see if I can bring on another senior leader. Yes, I can. Okay, so our new senior leader appears here. He's going to take 1 point of shock off this nearest unit, and he'll order both that unit and the one in the woods to fire. 5 rifles in the open, needing 4s. 3 hits. Highlanders are in the open, so they take 3 points of shock. Due to the position of where the troops are in the woods, I'm just going to say that 3 will be able to fire. I've been scrutinising against the British 2, but with that, 2 have hit. Highlanders in the open, and we've got 1 kill and 1 point of shock. Is it a leader? Yes, it is. Senior 1 2 3. It's the junior. What happens to him? He's knocked unconscious. Let's roll about a thing. 2. That might be nothing. So the British stay at 6 on morale. Okay, so I'm going to try and bring on another unit. I know I'm combining this as a 3, but I can't actually use the 1, so whether I use it as a 2 or a 3 is academic. Can they get on the board? Yes, they can. And so the 75th are on the table, and 5 men will fire at the Highlanders. Needing 4s. 3 hits. And 2 kills and 1 point of shock. Is it the leader? No, it's not. So at this stage, I'm definitely going to call a halt. The Germans have definitely won this game. We've got 4 German battalions holding the line, more or less full battalions, and then 1 at half strength, again facing the Highlanders. There's no real way of getting past them. We've also got a machine gun as well to add in. The British, unfortunately, have really faltered. Scots here, we've almost out of a battalion. We've just got this one here in the middle, who are in fairly good shape, but we've already had 1 routing away, and these Highlanders, as we've just seen, have taken some terrible casualties, and we are not really going to get anything over the line in this game, and our cavalry is coming from the rear, and I think we're going to just move back and lick our wounds. Thanks very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed it, I enjoy playing this chain of command variant myself at battalion level. I think it works fine. I think it's a good variation and something that people can share and play. And if you've got any thoughts, you can also put them on our Facebook group. There is a Facebook group which is Chain of Command World War I, and there's lots of members there, and you can come in and have a thought and some ideas about how we might play differently. And just a final note, I've also been lucky enough to get hold of quite a lot of trenches, so I'm going to try and put together a game of late 1914, but add some trenches into the mix, and see how we might play this again. We might have an even larger force, but this time perhaps the Germans attacking, and see how they can deal with the coordination challenges when they've got very large forces. So I'll put that in ideally before the break for the new year. And can I just wish everybody have a very Merry Christmas and a lovely New Year across 2021. Thanks very much.